and gentlemen, and welcome to another fabulous Pigskin Thursday here. And what a great show we have for you as we do every Pigskin Thursday. And, today we're going to start it off with a little bit of news, and then we have two unbelievable, terrific guests for you this evening. We're going to have the great Rex Daxt. The host of Pewter is going to be joining us, and then former University of Florida and former NFL quarterback, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play in the University of Florida, Shane Matthews, is going to join us at about 9:45 today. So that's two terrific guests. The first one is going to be Rex Daxt, the co-host of Pewter, and then, of course, the great Shane Matthews. So unbelievable show tonight. For those of you joining us from different platforms, if you can please do me a big favor. Besides being live on our YouTube channel, which we want to welcome everybody on the show tonight from our YouTube platform. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. But we have lots and lots of people on Facebook, just lots and lots of people flowing in right now from our Facebook page. Want to welcome Eric from Gainesville into the show. And Eric, boy, do we got a show for you. You get a double dip tonight, buddy, because like I just mentioned, if you didn't hear, not only do we got Rex Daxt from Pewtercast on, we also have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the University of Florida history, also played 14 years in the NFL. Shane Matthews will be joining us later in the show after Rex Daxt is done. I'm just writing that down so I know the times. Once again, if you can all just take a moment, hit the share button on your computer. It'll only take 1 second. By you sharing this, you're going to give a lot of other people an opportunity to see our show, to hear about our show, to hear about the greatest website out there right now on Facebook, crewforlife.com. Just amazing. We want them to be involved too. Leave a comment. There's going to be a lot of comments tonight. We expect it with terrific guests tonight. And, tonight we're going to be talking about, obviously, the upcoming game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 7-3, versus the Rams. We're going to be talking about that. But before we get to that, there's always something. I think I should start the show off maybe with a segment that's called, maybe in the media or something to that effect, because, the media, and we've talked about this day after day after day, just amazes me with how they can go ahead and blow things out of proportion. Something was said today that once again irked me. And, there are times, I listen to some sportscasts. I listen to radio. I love WDAE radio. I want to thank all the guys in the past from WDAE that have come on our show. That's all on our YouTube recorded, by the way. The great Ronnie Lane. We've had Michael Clayton on the show. We've had Pat Donovan. We had Zach Blobner. We've had John Momola. All those guys. But something in the media today, when I talk about the media, it's not WDAE. It's any of the media, but it was the Tampa media, and it kind of irked me the wrong way. I'd love to get some comments, love to get some opinions, but they will seem to be surprised, maybe is the word, and then they went on to over-exaggerate and overreact on a comment that was made by Bruce Arians, where he said, "We are tired," and people all over the media, from radio to news, seem to be like going at it is, how the hell could he have a team that is tired? And completely, once again, another comment that is blown out of proportion by our lovely media. And, basically what Bruce Arians, he was asked a question. He gave the team 3 days off, a well-deserved 3 days off, before they go into practicing at night for this upcoming game versus the Los Angeles Rams. And all of a sudden, people are flipping out. What kind of coaching is that? Your team is tired. How could you say that? What he meant by that comment is this is an unusual year. And I shouldn't have to be here for the first 10 minutes of the show sticking up for either A, like yesterday, Antonio Brown, or B, Bruce Arians today. But with the way the media is, I guess everything they do is negative. And once again, something that was said by Bruce was taken in a negative context. And it is simply and amazingly ridiculous. So basically what Bruce was saying, and anyone that should understand this, is it's been a very unique year. We've had to do things this year that in his coaching days, he's never had to do before. The players have had to do things and have been asked to do things they've never been asked to do before because of COVID-19. I mean, that's obvious. There was no practices before the season started, no OTAs, no mini camps. And then once the camp started, they had to do things they weren't used to, like, 3 tests a week to see if they had COVID-19. And a lot of different strains they had to take on, not being around family at certain times. And this is taking a little bit of strain, not just on the, Buccaneers, on the NFL as a whole. And all he was saying was, my guys are real tired. They have been doing so much to make sure this season has got underway and has been being played, and the media throws it out. And I'll tell you what, those things got to stop. And I'm not going to sit here and preach like I did a couple of nights ago about the media and how, they love you when you're doing great and they hate you. And then they go on Antonio Brown. And I'm not going to sit here all show and talk about Antonio Brown again because we have a lot better things to do. But here is a situation where the media continues to only take what people do negative and blow it out of proportion. We talked about that last night. For example, you never hear about the good that these players are doing, especially through the difficult times that a lot of people are going through. How many people they're helping? The Tom Brady's, the Gronkowski's, the Antonio Browns, the Donovan Smith, the Ali Marpettes, the Ryan Jensens, and so on and so on and so on. But as soon as they do something wrong, it's on top of the page. You know why? Because that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear the positive stuff that people are doing. They're more interested in the negative, and we need to change that. We need to change that. We need to look at people for the good that they do. And, we went ahead last night. We talked about Antonio Brown, and we hit it in detail. And we're not going to hit on that again tonight unless the subject comes up on our comment section or our hotline. But it's got to stop. This thing with Bruce Arians was just a comment he was making that his team is off because they are tired. That is all he was saying. And for them to just, freak out and think it's like the worst thing's ever been done is just crazy, ludicrous, and all the above. And, that's my pitch today on the media thing. Coming up, we got some big football. What a show we have tonight. We're going to break down the Rams and the Buccaneers this week on Monday night. We're a couple minutes away from having Rex Daxt on the phone, on video with us, joining us live. Then in about 30 minutes, we're going to have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play at the University of Florida, played 14 years in the NFL, played for the Chicago Bears, is one of the teams you may remember him the most with. Shane Matthews will be joining us. So a great lineup for you tonight. Sit back, relax. You can watch us on YouTube Live TV if you like, or just listen to us on CrewForLife.com or one of the many affiliates like Frankly Speaking Sports. But this is a tough game. Both these teams, believe it or not, we're in week 11 right now. Guys, after this Monday night, listen to this. The Bucs only play 5 games in the next 6 weeks, and the season's over. already over. They got a bye that was, placed in there in week 13, which could end up being good for the Buccaneers. And now they're home for a little while. But here's a Bucs team that is 7-3, going to be facing a Rams team that is 6-3. Obviously, the Rams just came off a big divisional loss last weekend. And they're 6-3 in a three-way battle in the NFC West with the Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks, who are playing this evening. So what an unbelievable division that is, and just how big of a game that is for LA. Then you look at the Buccaneers, who are 7-3. What are they, a half game behind the New Orleans Saints? And if there's ever a better time to be facing the teams and trying to catch, I don't know what happened there, but to catch the New Orleans Saints, now's the time. Drew Brees is out. They say 6 weeks. He's a minimum of, 2 weeks. He's a minimum of 2 weeks. I think it'll be longer. What happens now? All right, guys, all you people that didn't want Jameis Winston here, let's find out why, because he is the new quarterback of the New Orleans Saints, and we'd be guiding them. And also, Alvin Kamara is a little banged up and may not be playing this weekend. So if there's any opportunity for this team to start leading the path and taking the driving seat in the NFC South, it's going to be now. It's going to be now. It's going to be now. And this is what we need them to do. I mean, this is a Rams team that has an explosive offense. They like to play action. They like to fool you against a Tampa Bay defense, which overall has shown some glimpses of being successful, but still has some opportunities in defending against the pass. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need to win some NFC games. They played some interconference games versus, the Raiders and the Chargers and those teams. But one of the tiebreakers, remember, in the NFC is head-to-head in your conference. So they need to win some of these NFC games they're playing out of conference. So, and remember, this is a Rams offense that has Darrell Henderson, who has been running the heck out of the ball. Malcolm Brown has also been a good complement to him. They also have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds. So they're explosive, and they have a pretty darn good defense with Aaron Donald. Everyone knows Aaron Donald, but let's not forget former Defensive Player of the Year, Jalen Ramsey, who came over from the Jaguars, and Leonard Floyd as well. So these are going to be some good, great games and important games for both the Rams and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as the season progresses. So we should be looking for a lot of fun here in the next couple moments. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to bring in to you from the co-host on Pewtercast. We know him as Rex Daxt. Let's go ahead and bring him in. He's coming up here shortly, folks. I promise you. There he is. I see him now. Hey, Rex, how you doing, my friend?
Excellent. Thank you for having me. I go by Ren.
Why did I call you Rex? I don't know why.
I don't know either. I don't know.
I made my first mistake of the night. There's usually a couple more in there. So
I'm not worried about it, but just for clarification for everyone watching.
All right. So we got Ren on. I apologize. We'll make sure we'll correct that. I don't know what I did there. But Ren, let's go ahead and talk about this team. I was just talking about it as you were coming on. This team is a team just like the Rams, our Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who these next couple of games, just like it is for the Rams, are huge games in the path to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, a lot of people have said this 4-game stretch, starting with the Saints game, was big for the Buccaneers. 1-1 so far, and then of course got the Rams and the Chiefs coming up, and the Rams are even better, I think, than the record shows, and they're 7-3. They had a real fluky game against Miami, kind of like our Chicago loss, where I think Tua threw for 87 yards or 119 yards, and they ran for like a total of 87 yards and won 28-17 or something. They had a defensive touchdown. They had a punt return for a touchdown. They had another defensive turnover that, talking about the Dolphins, that ran it back to the 2-yard line. And then the other Dolphins score was like a 33-yard drive. So that was a fluky game. They lost to the Bills on a 4th down call that probably wasn't a pass interference, and the Bills continued the drive. So, Sean McVay likes to use a lot of eye candy, lots of motion. And it's not necessarily motion to get guys open deep. It's just motion to pick up 7 yards or 10 yards or 12 yards. And they just like, to dink and dunk it down the field. But they got the guys to do it, and their defense is top 5 in almost every category that you can think of. And I think their defense only given up like 31, maybe 36 points in the entire second half of all their ball games. So this is a big game. It's a tough test. This, I think the Bucs sort of match up a little better with the Chiefs next week. So this might be their toughest test that they have left on the schedule.
Yeah, and we look at the schedule if we just want to go ahead through it, and I'm not going to go game for game, but here's a situation for our Tampa Bay Buccaneers that after this Monday night game, they play in the last 6 weeks of the season. They only play 5 games because they're one of the teams who have the later bye, in this upcoming year. Does that benefit the Bucs that bye is that late in the season?
I think it always benefits the team the later it is the bye, because then it gives you the most time to sort of get healthy. Whenever your injuries are the most on your team, maybe that be week 6, week 10, week 14, it's nice to have the bye week there. But speaking in generally, I think the later the bye it is, I think the better it is for the team. Especially if you have a lot of rookies producing that can help them, with the rookie wall. So for me, I would like the Bucs to have the last bye possible, which they do this year every year.
Now, going into this game Monday night, we take a look at this team. I guess it's the tale of 2 different teams. You go back 2 weeks ago, you had probably the worst loss in the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you bounce back this week versus, a decent Carolina team who has stayed in a lot of the games this year. And, in the second half of this game, they single-handedly put it to the Carolina Panthers. What type of team are we looking at to show up Monday night versus the Rams?
Right. Well, hopefully the Green Bay team or the second half Panthers team. It's hard to even as a diehard Bucs fan to say that the Buccaneers weren't out coached in the Saints game. Whatever their idea was defensively, their scheme to slow down the Saints or keep them from putting up touchdowns didn't work, and it was shocking to everyone how slow it took for Todd Bowles to go ahead and adjust and start to bring some pressure at all. And when they started to bring some pressure, you can say that the Saints really took their foot off the gas a little bit, or weren't trying to score as much. But they only put up 7 points in the second half. It was 38-3. It was 31-0 at half. So I guess you have that to hang your hat on. But the defense, even in games where the final score looked in doubt, has started slow. It wasn't in doubt. It started slow. Like the Green Bay game, we were down 10-0. We were down 10-0 in the Raiders game. We were down in the Panthers game. And I'm not really if it was 10-0 or 7-0, but we didn't take our first lead until we got that 2-for-1 at the end of the half, where we tied it up right before the end of the half, and then got the ball back and went down and scored. And then we had the lead, and then we're off and running. So what I hope for is for whatever scheme Todd Bowles and BA and everyone sort of puts together against the Rams this week, that they get it right. And if they don't get it right, that they adjust quickly. And I think the best way to do it is to do what they've been most successful at, which is bring the pressure early, bring the heat early, and keep the pressure on. And, play more man than zone. And then with the offense, the Rams, they play a ton of basically Tampa 2. People will know that saying. They play 2 deep safeties, and they will not let you throw it over the top. But the middle of the field is open, and their linebackers are average at best. So the way the Rams sort of like to move the ball and the way the Saints like to move the ball with these 7-yard, 10-yard, 12-yard plays and just dunk, and just sort of like medium chunk it down the field, that's the way you're going to have to beat the Rams if you're going to put points on them. So we'll see. They're both 2 well-coached teams, but I really think offensive and defensively, whatever scheme they put together, it's got to work right away. You can't wait for those halftime adjustments.
Now, when we look at this team, a couple of things that have been said about this team. Let's talk about the offense, Tom Brady, and the receivers. Everybody was so concerned when Antonio Brown came in. Why are you bringing this guy in? All it's going to do is mess up the other guys. They're going to be upset. They're not going to get enough targets. But when you look at this game last week and the distribution by Tom Brady to the different receivers, especially to what I call the big 3, the Godwin, the Evans, and the Brown, it was 6, 6, 7. So from a distribution point, for all those people out there that was saying it can't be done, it sure looked like it was done on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was really too worried that it couldn't be done. It was just why. It was kind of like why, because we talked about how we had the best receiving core in the league, going into the season. After picking up Tyler Johnson, and then the emergence of Scotty Miller early this year, and then getting Gronk, and then getting some patch catching backs, and then having OJ Howard, and it was like there's only one ball to go around. But what you saw a little bit in the Saints game from Antonio Brown, and then especially in this last game against the Panthers, is Antonio Brown brings something that the Bucs just don't have in that receiving room. He's like a better Godwin. I consider Mike a possession receiver. I consider Chris Godwin more of a yak guy. And I'm not saying they can't do both. It's just that Chris Godwin is just much better at it. I think Antonio Brown overall is better at it than both of them. And you can see his athleticism. You can see if you get him in space and one-on-one matchups that he's going to make the other person pay, the other team pay. Not only that, he's going to make the other person pay, but he's going to make the guy miss. And then he's going to pick up extra yards, something that Mike never does. And Godwin's good at it. But I just think Antonio Brown he's just something special at the wide receiver position. So I can understand people saying that, especially given his past behavior, where it's going to go south, and 2 teams were paying him not to play for them, at the same time. So you can understand people's hesitancy in sort of in that situation. But you just don't get rid of good football players. And Tom Brady and Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, they figured it out. So if you were worried about not enough balls to go around, I just don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, and you hit on something right there. People are so quick because of past history to almost, instead of wanting to see this guy be successful with the Buccaneers, it's almost like some of them are rooting for him to fail so they can say, I told you so. And here's a guy, like you said, why wouldn't you? Yes, I'm not condoning anything he's done off the field. I know you're not either. What he's done, okay? But here's a guy who, since he's been with the Buccaneers, from everything the coaches are saying and the players, has been doing everything he's asked for. He's showing up to the games like he showed up Sunday, and he's going to continue to be a big part of the team. It's just extra pressure you're throwing on a guy who already has so much pressure on him. And not that that's the fans' fault. That's his own fault for going out and doing these things. But my goodness gracious, I mean, this guy is just playing with all this extra pressure on him.
Yeah, but again, it's his own fault, and I'm never going to tell somebody, fan of any team of any sport, that they're not allowed not to root for somebody, especially someone who's had the difficulties and, quite frankly, the disgusting behavior Antonio Brown has been found guilty of and now has been accused of. So that's we all sort of have our line in the sand. But for me, I'm never going to quit following or rooting for my team because of a person on the team. If when enough becomes enough, the team will get rid of him, and it became enough for the Raiders, and it became enough for the Steelers. It became enough for the Raiders, and with New England, he was fine in New England. He just had the charges that are about to go to court come up in New England, and they're like, well, our policy is you get charged with these type of crimes, like, you're gone. There is no due process. So, like, New England didn't get rid of him for anything he did, but definitely the Raiders did, and definitely the Steelers did. So, I mean, if you want to draw your line in the sand at that type of behavior of a player, and you want to be up in arms about it, go ahead. Like, that's fine. I completely understand where you're coming from. If you want to quit following the team for it, okay, go ahead. I completely understand where you're coming from. But as far as I go, I don't want to seem like, just win. It doesn't matter what their off-field behavior is. But the Bucs, they made it very clear. They said if he does anything from when we sign him, then he's gone. And everything else in the past they knew about, and they wanted to sign him. So it doesn't matter what I think. It's like that he's there. He's a Buck. I root for the name on the front of the jersey, not the one on the back.
I understand completely. I couldn't have said that better myself. Now, when we go into Monday's game, one thing we finally got to see is the emergence of Ronald Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Jones came out. Yes, he had a 98-yard run, but even without that 98-yard run, he was still at 100 yards. He was still 4.7 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think people do not realize that we have a running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now that is third in the league. I want to say it's behind Cook and maybe Henry, if I'm correct, in rushing yards, and he still doesn't get the credit he deserves.
Well, because he doesn't get the ball as much as he should. The 3 weeks where he had to be the guy when Fournette and Shady McCoy were hurt, he rushed for 100 yards, and those were the first 3 games he'd ever gotten the chance to be the guy without splitting carries with Barber or Fournette or somebody else. So I can understand where people don't kind of understand how good Ronald Jones is. And another thing with that, it's like, oh, he ran for 102 yards, but 98 of it was on one play. Okay, well, first off, that's really hard to do. Second off, if the Bucs go down and score a touchdown that drive, how many of those yards would have been his? 40, 50, 60? Say he gets caught at the 50. Okay, now it's first down at the 50. Does he get another 20 yards in that drive? So even though you want to race to 98, like, some of those yards would have been his on that drive. So he just decided to take them all on one play. And I don't think that should be really penalize a guy for it. And I think it says something about him and a little bit about sort of the state of the running backs in the league, that a guy who basically splits carries, is third in the league in rushing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. But, one of the big things in this game that really has been left, in the back burner is the switch up on the offensive line. Ali Marpet obviously was out last game, so they moved Jensen over there, and A.Q. Shipley came in. And I thought the offensive line overall, if you're judging them on a game, I think Brady got sacked once. But overall, Brady was able to do what Brady does best, and that is step up in the pocket and make some plays.
Yeah, it's not a secret with these older quarterbacks, these statuesque guys, the Breezes, the Bradys, the Rivers, the Flaccos now in New York, playing, filling in for Darnold with the Jets. I'm sure I'm forgetting some guys. No one likes to get pressured, no one likes to get hit, and Tom Brady's proven it time after time after time. If you give him time, he'll be able to find it. Now, praising the offensive line, I think overall, this is probably the best season they've had in a while. I think, a lot of that credit goes to Tom Brady for getting rid of the ball. But I also think that when the Bucs ejected George Warhop, when BA came in and got a new offensive line coach, all the offensive linemen besides Marpet, who are all trending downward, had a downward trending arrow. The very first year, they all trended upward, and their upward trend is continuing. Even Donovan Smith seems to be a more consistent player this year with 2 years out of Warhop, non-Warhop coaching, I guess I'll put it. But the Panthers aren't good pressuring the quarterback, and they're not good at stopping the run. So I would hold off a little bit and praising about, this offensive line is top this or top that going off the Panthers game, because every offensive line does that to the Panthers. The Panthers I think they've played 9 games, got 9 sacks total.
Right.
The Bucs are like in the 40s, low 40s, high 30s.
Now, you talked a little bit, we talked about some of the defense, the great Sam Darnold, of course, on that defense with former defensive player of the year, Jalen Ramsey, Lee Leonard Floyd, just to name a few of those defenses. But let's switch to the offense for 1 minute on the Rams. And one of the things we struggled with, and I've been saying it all year, the one area that has been, in my opinion, the consistent struggle has been our inability to defend against the pass. Although we've made some great plays defending the pass, we have given up, obviously, a lot of big plays. And here's a team, the Rams, as you know, that they love to do. McVay loves a lot of play action.
Mm-hmm.
He's play action, play action, play action. And how difficult do you feel it's going to be for our defense to try to keep up with that play action game?
I don't think as a defense as a whole, it's going to be hard to keep up with it. I think there's going to be certain players who are going to bite, and it's going to bite them in the butt numerous times. And I'm looking at Jamel Dean, and I'm looking at Devin White. They're a little bit of undisciplined players, especially Devin White, in my opinion. Dean just has one fatal flaw, which is a double move. He'll just go for it every time. Devin White cannot pass, can't cover in zone, can't cover in man, just can't cover. Can he learn how to cover? I hope so. I think he can. He's got all the attributes. He's got the speed. So I like everything's there for him. He just doesn't, for some reason he doesn't get it. It's not clicking with him, or whatever he's trying or being coached, it's not working, and they have to sort of change something up with him. So where I think the Bucs have been most susceptible in the past is in the flats, getting the ball out early on slant routes and getting the ball out early on screen plays, or leaking it back out on a 7-step drop and getting out to the flat. And after, David and White have either committed to a blitz, or they've committed to, rushing the passer, and one of the down linemen drop off. So it's not really a blitz because they're only still bringing 4, and maybe Sue drops back to cover an area. After they've committed to either dropping back or taking their man, and they leak a back out, then what teams are doing is they're running a guard out there, and you got either Carlton or Jamel Dean one-on-one, but they have to get past their wide receiver they're guarding. And if it's zone, they're running a guard out there. So now you got a cornerback trying to get around a guard and then get the ball carrier. And the best they really can do is just sort of take the guard's knees out, make sure he doesn't block anybody else. Now the back's all by himself, and just hope, the cavalry comes. But it's been working since week 1. These flat plays of getting, sort of these guys in space with a blocker in front of them. letting, basically using sort of Todd Bowles' scheme and his playmakers with speed, being the inside linebackers, already commit to their plan for that play, and then running underneath it, because the plan's never going to be Devin White and Levante David, you cover the flats and zone. It's just never going to be that. Now, if it's man-to-man, something Todd Bowles did a little bit of in the Saints game was Devin White spied Kamara a lot. He's like, wherever he goes, you go. If unless he splits out wide. But if he's in the backfield and he starts to leak left, that's where you're leaking. He starts to leak right, you go, like, you leak that way. And that helped a lot with the screen game to Kamara. Left the middle wide open. And then when the Saints would run tight ends, first string, second string, third string tight ends at Devin White, they still get the completion because, again, you can't cover. So with all the eye candy, the motion, the play action, the Buccaneers need to stay very disciplined in sort of what they're trying to do to counter that. And the two players that I think that are going to blow their assignments the most and sort of keep these drives going or give up the big play is Jamel Dean and Devin White. If Devin White has a game where he's in the conversation for MVP of the game, then the Bucs win. And I think they win pretty handily. But if Devin White has a bad game, then we lose.
And Ren, you just hit on this, but my last question before we let you run here is, it's Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
What I was going to ask you to give us a prediction, and what's the one thing each team has to do in order to be successful in this game? And I know you just hit on some of that, but if you can elaborate on what the Bucs need to do in order to win, and what the Seattle needs to win. And then at the end of that, I know you just said you think the Bucs will win. I was going to ask you, what do you think, the outcome of the game would be?
Sure. Defensively for the Rams, just kind of keep doing what they're doing. They do a lot of sort of man zone scheme type of things they do. They'll take Jalen Ramsey and put him on their best, whoever they think the best wide receiver is. And it's going to be tough for, the Rams sort of to pick who the best guy is on our team, but we'll just say it's Mike Evans. And Jalen Ramsey will play man-to-man, but the rest of the defense plays zone behind him. So not a lot of teams do that. I don't think any other team does that. So it's going to be hard to recognize that. Playing the two deep safeties, BA and Byron are going to have to get out of this no risk it, no biscuit mentality for this game at least. And you're just going to have to take the 7 to 12 to 15-yard things down the middle. Gronk's going to play a big role in this game. Cam Brate's going to play a big role in this game. Crossing routes are going to play a big role in this game, which the Bucs don't run a lot of. Slants also, which the Bucs don't run a lot of. I hope I get to see a lot of those. And defensively for the Rams, just kind of, keep doing what you're doing. It's Brady has problems with pressure. The games where he's gotten pressure, both Saints game and the Chicago game, haven't worked out well, and sort of gets him off his rhythm, and he just turns into kind of an average quarterback. So the offensive line play is going to be big for the Bucs there. But if the Rams can get home with 4, it's going to make a long night for the Buccaneers offense. And then vice versa, the Bucs defense, I talked about, you got to stay disciplined. Trust what what you've seen on tape. Don't trust so much what you're seeing pre-snap, because there's going to be a lot of just gibberish running around in the backfield out there. Just know what your assignments are, and you're going to have to believe in the assignments and believe in the scheme. Again, it has to be, but hopefully it's the right one right away. And then I guess offensively for the Rams, I would look at, when I needed a play, I would look at Devin White and Jamel Dean and use those double moves and make Devin White run in man coverage, and that would be the place I would open up at. Also, the Buccaneers probably aren't going to run the ball very well against the Rams. They play something called a bear defense, where they play a nose tackle and their two defensive tackles play inside the guard's shoulder. So really, it's like a 3-man nose tackle look almost, and you can't run inside on that. So don't even try. But thankfully the Bucks don't run that well outside. So it's I don't expect a huge running game. You're gonna have to do it to keep them honest, unless they try to run some power ISO off tackle, which they haven't done a lot. I'd like to see that as the Buccaneers. But I think it's going to be a good game, but I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring game for either team. I'm looking at 27-20, 27-24, and, I will always pick the Buccaneers.
There you go. Well, Rand, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule, especially on such short notice, and coming on, frankly speaking, sports on Pigskin Thursday edition.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for inviting me. I had a good time. You had good questions, and you ever ask me again, I won't hesitate to come back.
All right, we appreciate you, and have a good Thanksgiving, my friend.
You too.
All right, that was Daxt from Pewtercast. What a great conversation we had with him. We are about 5 minutes away. I know Shane Matthews just texted me. He's trying to get on right now. But you listen to this, and you listen to some of the information that Ren gave you. And Ren gave you such great information in regards to going ahead and what they have to do to win. And, we talk about this offense week after week after week. I don't think it's any secret, any surprise, how big, of an offense this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team and how dominating it is. And it's going to continue to be dominating. I think the key is going to be how well we can distribute that football again this week. Can we keep everybody involved? And when I say keep everybody involved, that's not just Antonio Brown. That's not just Chris Godwin. That's just not Michael Evans. That's not just Cameron Brate. That's not just Tyler Johnson. It's all of them. But the other thing from an offensive standpoint that I did not mention, and neither did Ren, I meant to ask him, is we still have a lot of issues consistently catching the ball out of the backfield. And with the 2 guys or the 3 guys that we have back there who are able to catch the football, being McCoy, Fournette, and Jones, these guys have to go ahead and they have to be able to catch the football. And right now we saw a couple of drops last game. Those are big, big turnoffs. And when you're trying to bring the ball downfield and you have a 2nd and 5, you throw the ball out and they drop the ball when it could easily be a first down. And we can go ahead and do that. Let me just... And all right, so it looks like we're going to go ahead and in a couple seconds here, go ahead and let me just do a couple of things right here. We'll put that up. Let me do this. Let me do that. I'm just typing something into them, folks, so bear with me. All right, stay with me, folks. We're going to try that again. Just getting him going. All right. Nope, that didn't work either. I'm trying to type something in for you, folks, so bear with me here as I try to do this. All right, there we go. Let's go ahead and get Shane Matthews, now that I got everything lined up, on the telephone with us. For those of you that are listening, if you can go ahead one more time, if you haven't yet, we are on YouTube Live. By the way, hello everybody on YouTube. Hope you're enjoying this live show for you that we're putting on this evening. For everyone that is on, if you can go ahead and please share this to your timeline. It'll take 1 second. We're about to have an amazing interview with an amazing guy that known for years out of Gainesville, Florida. He was coaching football, one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play at the University of Florida. Has many records there. He's on the top of all the lists. Played in the NFL for 14 years. We're about to get Shane Matthews on the phone. So let's go ahead, and if for any reasons out there that you cannot hear me, if somebody will please go ahead and let me know if you can hear both of us, I would surely appreciate it. Let me go ahead and get him on the line now. All right. There we go.
Hello.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to introduce to you on the Pigskin Thursday, Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline. Let's welcome in former University of Florida Gator quarterback and NFL quarterback Shane Matthews. Shane, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, buddy. I want to thank you so very much for taking the time tonight to come on our Frankly Speaking Sports show. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Sean, let me ask you this. I want to go back in time. I want to put the memory back into you a little bit. You're playing in high school. You're coming out of, I believe it's Mississippi, very well-known college player in that area. How big of a transition, so people understand, coming from high school to a major school like University of Florida, was it for you?
Well, I grew up in a football family and going to SEC games week in and week out. And, so I was used to at least going to big schools, big games. And I played in a pretty big high school that would have about 10,000 people on a Friday night. So it wasn't that big of a transition. I think the biggest transition was the size of the athletes. And, I was pretty small coming into college myself, so I had to get acclimated to that.
Yeah, now, talk about you come into University of Florida, and all of a sudden, you got I think it was new at the time, Coach. You might have been the first quarterback, if I'm correct, under Steve Spurrier. How was that learning to play in college under Coach Spurrier?
Yeah, I was his first quarterback here when he came in 1990, and it didn't take me long to learn what he wanted to get done. His system is very complicated but easy as well. And as I said, being a coach's son in high school and being around the game my whole life, I pretty much adapted to what he wanted to get done very quickly.
Yeah, now, talk about those years. I mean, here you are, you come into the University of Florida, and all of a sudden, overnight, you guys are like 10-2, 9-2. I believe you won an SEC championship back then as well. What was it like playing at the University of Florida and winning a SEC championship?
Well, we won the SEC in 1990, Spurrier's first year, but weren't able to be called champs for something that happened before he got there. And then we won the first school official title in 91. And that's why you come and play football in the SEC is to compete and try to win championships. And those early 90 teams under Spurrier, we kind of laid the foundation for the teams that came after us and helped propel us to win the 96 national championship.
Now, let's talk about something that's, a lot on this mind. And I know you still follow the Gators. You always have. When I lived in Gainesville a couple of years, know you were on the radio on I believe it was RUF or whatever it was called back then. But following the Gators this year, I mean, talk about how excited that area is to have a guy like Kyle Trask, who I don't even believe played much, if I'm correct, in high school, and now, in my opinion, is probably one of the leading candidates for the Heisman Trophy this year.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's very excited, no question. I mean, Florida knew going into this season that we'd have an opportunity to have a big year, and he's played extremely well, not only himself but everybody around him. And he has a chance to win the Heisman Trophy. Still has some football left to be played, but he's a kid that doesn't really worry about that stuff. If your team plays well, the individual awards will take care of themselves.
Yeah, and let me ask you an opinion, because I know you're a big college football fan as well, not just University of Florida, but in general. And I've heard mixed things. I want to get a guy who plays opinion on this. A lot of people are saying it's really hard this year to really, and I don't think it is, but they think because of the amount of games and the fairness between these Heisman candidates, like you got Kyle that's played in 7 or 8 games already, and then you get another school like, is it Ohio State with Fields that has maybe played 3 games the whole year. I mean, how do you go about in such a unique year at a unique time? Is there really any way to make it fair?
Not really. I mean, they've changed the date when they actually have to have your votes in for the Heisman. They've made it a little bit later than they normally do, and it's going to allow some of the Pac-12 schools and obviously the Big Ten, who's only played 4 games right now. I think Florida's played 6 games. Some schools have played 8 games at this point. But it's changing the date and pushing it back. It's going to allow voters to kind of look at the entire season, look at each player that has an opportunity to maybe win that award. It gives them a fair opportunity. So, there's a handful of guys. Everybody knows who those guys are that are going to win the award. It's just we got to wait and see who performs the best the next couple of weeks.
Yep. Now, when you were done with your college career, and you had an unbelievable college career, I mean, like I said, you were SEC Player of the Year twice. You're in the Hall of Fame for the University of Florida Gators. How surprised were you when you graduated and you went undrafted?
I was very surprised, but I was extremely small. When my senior year, I was only 180 pounds. When I went to the combine, I was only 180 pounds, and the most I ever weighed in the NFL was 195. And the average quarterback weighs about 235. Even when I played, and nowadays they're bigger than that. So I was a little surprised and disappointed, but I knew if I was given an opportunity, I knew I could make rosters because of my mental strengths of the game of football, the X's and O's. And that's why I lasted 14 years, is because of not so much my talent, but because of the mental capacity and how I could learn a playbook, in 10 minutes and be ready to play if a team needed me.
Now, you go from playing in one of the most amazing college venues at the Swamp in Gainesville to starting your career at one of the most, popular venues, almost been historical, I guess is the right word, venue at Soldier Field. How was that, being able to play at Soldier Field?
Well, you're right. It's an old stadium. A lot of history there. It's cold, windy. It's not very big. They're the biggest. But now they've built some stadiums in the NFL now that are a little bit bigger than the SEC stadiums. But majority of the SEC stadiums were bigger than the biggest NFL stadium. So size-wise, nothing really affected me, but it was cool to be able to play in Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, a bunch of the other stadiums around the league. But there's a lot of history in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, there definitely is. And let me ask you this. It took you 4 years, I think it was, to actually play. I know 7 years to start, and you started, obviously games in the NFL. My question to you is, were you more nervous in your first game when you came in or your first start?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question. Probably my first start, but I didn't have my first start until my 7th year in the league.
Right.
I played a little bit before that, but it would probably be my first start because, you're starting a brand new year. You're coming out of training camp, announced as the starter, and I was fortunate. I played extremely well against the Kansas City Chiefs in my first ever start, and we won the game. And but I think anytime you walk out on the field, you're somewhat nervous, and if you aren't nervous, that means you don't care.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So let's talk about that. You have an unbelievable career where you last 14 years, which is incredible, as you know, for anyone. But at what point, Shane, was it while you were playing or was it after you were playing that you started thinking about coaching high school kids?
Well, honestly, I've always wanted to be a coach. I've always wanted to be a college coach, but it's hard to do if you play a long time. You don't really get the opportunities that coaches get at a younger age. So when I was done playing pro ball, I was 36 years old, and I had looked into college coaching, but majority of the places I was going to have to start out as a graduate assistant, start at the bottom of the totem pole, like pretty much every coach does, and work their way up. And at my age, I just wasn't willing to do that. Plus, I had kids. I knew the time commitment, how many coaches don't get to see, their daughter's dance recitals or their son's games. And, I thought the best thing for me to do is to be a volunteer high school coach. And so I really enjoyed doing that. And, I coached some of the Gators coaches' kids. But my point is, one of the kids I coached was our quarterback for 3 years. His dad was a coach under Urban Meyer, and I think he got to see his kid play 3 times in his entire high school career because he was always out recruiting or traveling. So in hindsight, I wish I could have coached college ball, but then I would have missed a lot of my kids' activities, and I'm glad I didn't do that.
Now, let me ask you, when you coach in high school, you're calling the plays, right?
Absolutely.
I didn't even have to ask you that. But so talk about this. You're in the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame, the Gator Hall of Fame. Talk about those honors.
Well, what stinks is I didn't get to participate for the induction of the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame because I was being coached when they came up with the Florida-Georgia Hall of Fame. I want to say, I don't remember what year it was, but he and I were the first Florida athletes to go in it. I was playing, I want to say it may have been in '96. So they have festivities in the induction the Friday before the game, but I didn't get to participate in that. So honestly, they just sent me the statue, and that's about all I remember. It came to me in the mail. Getting inducted to the University of Florida Hall of Fame, I believe that was in 2002 because you have to be out of school for at least 10 years. That was pretty cool. It's something that, you always kind of dream of. You don't know if it'll really happen, but it was pretty much an awesome experience to go in with so many other tremendous athletes from all different sports.
And, Shane, how is it that, it's got to feel good to know you're able, because I know the last time I was up there, you still lived in the Gainesville area. I don't know if you do today, but how great is it to, even after your college career, to spend a lot of your time where you played college?
Well, I made Gainesville my home even after college. When I graduated, even when I was playing pro ball, this was always my home. I only lived in my football cities for just the football season, for pretty much 4 months out of the year. So Gainesville's a great place to raise a family. I like small towns. It's grown a lot, but it's still a small town. And Yeah, it's cool. I mean, there's a lot of activities going on. If you want to go to a softball game, a baseball game, basketball game, you can always just drive on into town and catch it. So, it's a good place to live, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and let me ask you, if you look back on your career, and let's talk about the NFL one more second, before I let you run here, what's the one moment that sticks out to you about your NFL career? If I said to you, pick a moment that'll just stay, ingrained in your head forever, what would that moment be?
Oh man, that's a great question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. I only started like 35 games in 14 years. So I knew my role. I knew my role as the backup to mentor the young players, to help coach. But probably the coolest thing that happened to me in the NFL, I was player of the week twice offensively, but the coolest thing I think was when I was with the Buffalo Bills in training camp. We traveled to Green Bay to scrimmage with them. Back in those days, you'd go practice for 2 days with them and then play the preseason game on that Friday night or Thursday night. So Green Bay has a tradition where little kids have these bikes where they give rides to the Packers players. So the Packers players pretty much drive the bikes down to the practice field, and the kids kind of sit on the handlebars. It's a tradition that's happened for years in Green Bay. Well, since we got to practice there and we were dressing in their locker room and stuff, we got to experience that. So we got to ride the bikes with the kids while they were on the handlebars. And that's something that, I would have never gotten to do. And it was kind of cool. And it kind of stands out in my mind.
Now, Shane, are you still doing any podcasts or any radio shows up there in Gainesville?
Yes, I have a daily podcast. It's 5 days a week from 8 to 9 on Facebook Live. You can watch it live, but you can also check it out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It's called Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning, and do that Monday through Friday. And then during football season, I do 3 shows with Coach Spurrier. 2 of those, one of them is on WRUF on Tuesdays. And then he and I do another show called College Sports Today on Mondays and Fridays. So I do a lot of radio during football. But, yeah, if people want to check out my podcast, we'd love for you to follow it on Facebook. It's called Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
All right, before I let you run now, I got to ask you this. Gators are having a terrific season. Unfortunately, 1 loss, but overall a great year. How do you see them finishing up?
Well, that 1 loss hurts, but it really doesn't hurt because all their goals are still right out there for them to attain, and they're gonna run through the next 3 opponents. They will face Alabama, and it will be one of the biggest SEC championship games ever because so much will be on the line. An SEC title, a trip to the 14 playoff, and possibly whoever plays the best in that game will win the Heisman Trophy between Trask and Mac Jones. So it's a heck of a year for the Gators so far. Dan Mullen's done a tremendous job. Football program's in great hands, and enjoy the season because it's going to be a good one.
It definitely is. Well, listen, Shane, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your schedule to join me on Frankly Speaking Sports.
No problem at all. Appreciate you having me.
All right. You be safe and have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye. That was the great Shane Matthews, former Gator quarterback. He also played 14 NFL seasons in the NFL. A lot of people remember him, of course, with the Chicago Bears. So great guy. I got to listen to Sean almost every day while I lived in Gainesville for a couple of years on, I believe it was WRUF, and just loved his insights. Him and Brady Ackerman used to do a show and just loved his insights from understanding the game. Not just understanding the game, but here's a guy that played the game. So you also got the perspective of a player's perspective on what it was like to go ahead and, play that way. Now, one of the things I do want to do before we get into our picks, we're going to do our picks within a few minutes here. I promised you week 2 picks, and I'm not going to disappoint you here. But a couple quick things we want to make sure we go over with you. For those of you that I do want to remind you that this Monday night, we obviously, if you don't know by now, I mean, you've been listening to the show, so I hope you realize by now it's a Monday night game. So instead of us coming on at 9 p.m. Eastern time, like we do on Monday nights, on a Monday night game when the Buccaneers play, we go ahead and we come on at 7 p.m. So this Monday night, our show will be on at 7 p.m., and we will do a Buccaneers pregame show, pretty much like we did tonight, but we'll try to get a couple of writers, maybe a couple of players on for you so that we can mix it up and talk about the Buccaneers game that Monday night. So make sure to tune in for that. Also, I do want to remind you as I bring it back up here, there's a couple of different things. Number one, we are on many different channels. As you all know, tonight we are live on YouTube on Frankly Speaking Sports. If you are not a member of our YouTube channels, guys, it's free. There's no reason. If you enjoy Frankly Speaking Sports, if you ever want to go back and listen to one of the great interviews, if you go back, we've done over 100 interviews with people in the sports industry, and it's just amazing, amazing, and amazing. And we have tentatively scheduled, I believe, and I will make sure, so it's not official, that we may even have this Monday night former Tampa Bay Lightning Brad Lukovich on with us. So we're going to check on that and confirm that. But we got some great guests coming up in the future. We're going to have Todd Stottlemyre coming on. We're going to have Jeff Garcia coming on. And that's just to name a few right now that we're going to be having come on. Harvey Ketchens from the NBA used to play. Just a lot of great athletes that have told us they will be coming on the show. You know, obviously this is a tough time. So next week is going to be a little different. We will do a Monday show. Then we will do a Tuesday show with Bullseye on our USF platform, and probably we'll let you know about Wednesday, and then of course we'll be off the rest of that week. But you got our YouTube also. If you are on, let me see if I can fit this in here. All righty. I think that came up. There it is. Twitter, @LarryFrankus. We have a Twitter account. Go to Twitter. That's our handle, @LarryFrankus with a US at the end. So make sure you go ahead and find us that way. And then, of course, on Facebook, we have our Facebook page. So, guys, if you can do us a favor and just, allow people the opportunity to join our group, let them know if you enjoy this show. Let us know. There's something we can do better. Let us know. We got a little time, probably about 20 more minutes in our show. I am going to go over the picks right now. I'm about to bring them up as I look for our agenda here. Let's see. Let's get that in there. There we go. And we will allow you in the next, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. If you want to call in, you want to talk some Buccaneer football, please go ahead and do so. I'm trying to get our picks up right now. So there they are. Let me get the logo off. A little bit of work that goes into this. All right, there we go. All righty. So let me make this larger so everybody at home can go ahead and see this. Zoom it to about 175. Let's try. All right, guys, there we go. Will 200 work? All right, that'll work even better. We'll keep it right there. All right, guys, obviously there's a game going on tonight. Let me see if I can update that real quick for you folks while we're here. But tonight, Arizona was at Seattle -3. And right now, Seattle is winning that game 16-7 in the third quarter with about 13 minutes left. So those are so far that, oh boy. All righty. And I'm bringing up my picks here on my phone, folks, so that I can see them a little bit better. All right. There we go. All right. So the first game you look at here, and the last one will be Philadelphia. So I know. Okay. Arizona. I picked them over Seattle. Seattle is -3. They're up 16-7 right now. Number 2, I got Cincinnati at Washington. Washington is 1.5 favored in this game. And I'm taking the Cincinnati Bengals in that game. Then you got Atlanta at New Orleans. New Orleans is -4.5. I think they'll easily cover that, even with Jameis Winston in at quarterback, and I think they beat the Atlanta Falcons. Then you got Pittsburgh at Jacksonville. Pittsburgh trying to remain undefeated. Once again, Pittsburgh trying to remain undefeated. They have a 10-point favorite over Jacksonville. They'll definitely cover that. Then you got New England at Houston. New England won a big game last week. They beat the Baltimore Ravens, one heck of a team. Houston is actually, I believe they're underdogs in this game by 2.5 points. And I picked New England to beat Houston. Then you got Philadelphia at Cleveland. Cleveland is a 3.5-point favorite. I am taking the Cleveland Browns to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. As I get this back to size, we'll bring up the next one as well. So let's go ahead and bring that one down. And let me get the rest of the picks up. There. We just did that one, so stay with me, folks. All right, let's see which one we did. Arizona. I'm not sure why I have 2 of these. All right, let's get away from that. All right, and let's get it. We got a couple more games. Let me find them here. All right, not sure where they went here. All right, I will tell you them. They won't be on the screen, folks. But then you got you can look on the bottom if you like. It's scrolling. We got Detroit at Carolina. Carolina is a 1.5-point favorite over the Lions. I picked Carolina. Then you have Tennessee at Baltimore. Pretty good game. Both teams need to win. Baltimore lost a big game last week to New England. Tennessee lost a big game to Indianapolis. Baltimore is actually 6.5-point favorites. It's in Baltimore, but I'm looking for the Titans to bounce back. They're due for a big win, and I think it'll be this weekend. Then you got, guys, listen to this for all you NFL fans out there. Miami plays Denver. Miami is 3.5-point favorites over Denver. I picked Miami to win. If they should win, listen to me. If the Miami Dolphins win, because the Buffalo Bills, I believe, are on a bye week, that would push the Miami Dolphins into first place in the AFC East. So by Sunday night, I'm picking the Miami Dolphins to go ahead and be in first place in the AFC East. Then you got the New York Jets, the worst team in football right now, versus the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers are favored by 8.5. They'll cover 8.5. They may cover that twice, for all we know. Then you got Green Bay at Indianapolis. Indianapolis is favored by 2.5. I'm picking the Green Bay Packers never count Aaron Rodgers out. I think he has like 26 touchdown passes this year, 3 interceptions. Just amazing what Aaron Rodgers done. Then you got what at the beginning of the year you might have thought would have been a good game on Sunday afternoon at 4:25. Dallas at Minnesota. Minnesota is playing good football. Cousins is playing well. Cook is rushing like a beast. This was an 0-4 Minnesota team that has won. What are they? They now have 4 wins. So they are playing terrific football right now. They are on a roll. The question is it going to be enough to push them to the playoffs in the season, or is it too late? But I picked them. They're 7.5-point favorites over the Cowboys. Sunday night, Kansas City at the Las Vegas Raiders. Half of this defense is out. Half the Los Angeles Raiders team is out because of COVID-19. We just got a report that it looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire will not be playing in that game. But as much as it hurts Kansas City, it isn't going to hurt them enough where they're going to lose to this Raiders team. On a normal game where everybody is playing, I think it would be an unbelievable game. The Raiders are playing some good football under John Gruden, but with half their defense out, their linebackers, I think 6 linebackers. I mean, just amazing the amount of people on this team that won't be playing. It's going to be very difficult for the Raiders to win this game. Then Monday night, the game you all been waiting for, especially in the Tampa Bay area. It's the Los Angeles Rams versus Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers are home. They're 3.5-point favorites. And they will cover and they will beat the Rams. I think offensively in this game, the Buccaneers on this Monday night, I think a couple things have to happen in this game. And I know we talked to many people in regards to it already, but my 2 cents is, first of all, we got about, it looks like 10 minutes left in the show. I got a call-in number up. Doesn't matter what platform. The phone number is the same. If you want to get on the air and talk a little bit of football, Buccaneers, whatever you like, go ahead in the next 10 minutes. We'll be more than happy to go ahead and put you on and talk to you about it. For those of you, I do want to let you know that Coach Bell will be doing a show. I'm not sure which day it's going to be since the Bucs play Monday night. I'm assuming 7 p.m. Sunday, but stay tuned to crewforlife.com or Frankly Speaking Sports, and we'll get you the accurate time and day that he'll be on. But either way, whether it's Monday before I know I'm on Monday before the show, so he'll either be on Sunday or Tuesday recapping the game. But either way, whatever it is, you got to listen to Coach Bell. The guy's amazing with a capital A. I mean, the guy just does an unbelievable show. So much interaction on that show between Coach Bell and all his listeners. You definitely got to watch this show. Also, call in the next 2 minutes. The phone number is 813-922-9810. Once again, that is toll-free 813-922-9810. If you want to talk a little football in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Also, we're talking about this game. And, first of all, I mentioned Ronald Jones. I think Ronald Jones, and I said it last week, that Ronald Jones will have 100 yards rushing. And I don't come on the show every week and say, I told you so, I told you so. But we're darn accurate on this show when we tell you things are going to happen. And I don't have to tell you that because all you have to do is go back and listen to the recordings on our YouTube live channel, and you will find that out. But Ronald Jones will rush for another 100 yards. The one thing I was saying before Shane came on that is concerning to me on the offensive side of the ball, the only thing that really bothers me a little bit is the inability, like I said earlier, to catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, this is a team that is going to need some big plays out of their backs, not just from the rushing game, which is important, but they're going to need to catch the ball out of the backfield and have yardage after catch. And the only way you're going to do that is to catch the ball first. And unfortunately, too often we are dropping easy passes from Tom Brady out of the backfield. And it's not just one guy. I see Leonard Fournette do it, and I see LaShawn. This is not the stage of your career where you should be learning on how to catch a football in the National Football League. Hopefully you know that already. So that's just a matter of concentration. That's all it is. It's running before you have the ball. And easy said than done. I'm sitting up here so I could explain it to them. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more difficult when you have these big linemen and big linebackers coming after you, ready to drill you. So, but that's the one thing we need. Defensively, the same thing I say week after week. You heard Red Daxt say it when he was on the show earlier today. All the cornerbacks have to come to play. They're going to have to wake up eventually and make some plays. Now, doesn't mean they haven't made plays. Please don't misunderstand me. But too often they're getting beat out there. Teams and quarterbacks are just picking us apart. They're just throwing against cornerbacks, and they're just gathering yardage up. It's kind of crazy. And, we can't keep allowing that to happen and expect it to be a formula for success. So that's definitely one thing I would say there. But other than that, it's free. Coach Bell talks about this all the time on his show about mistake-free football. The team that plays the most, least mistakes are going to be the team that wins. You can't fumble the ball and you can't throw interceptions. On the other side of the field, your defense has to make big plays. We already know Tom is going to have to sustain some long drives. Hey, I'm fine if he's doing 2-minute drives and scoring all the time, but that's not realistic. We need to have drives that sustain. And the other thing is, it's great. And first of all, I'd love to give credit to where credit is due with Ryan Suckup, who's having an unbelievable year. But guys, you got to remember the last 2 games, Ryan Suckup is 8 for 8 in field goals. What does that mean? Okay, it means he's a good kicker, but that's not all it means. What it means is that's 8 opportunities that we only put 3 points on the board when we could have had the opportunity to put 7 on the board. The difference between 8 field goals, okay, that's 24 points, okay? 24 points is 8 field goals. You get 8 touchdowns, that's 56 points. That's a difference of 32 points that you could have had on the board if you took those field goals and turned them into touchdowns. So one of the things we got to work on is, yes, there's going to be times you kick field goals and need field goals, but you can't consistently drive down the field and kick field goals all game and expect to come out ahead versus a team like the Rams, who have a very high-powered offense. They're actually having trouble in their kicking game. I believe this week they just brought in former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Matt Gay. So you guys will get to see Matt Gay kicking on this Monday night in Tampa, which he is accustomed to. So, that's the thing I would worry about. Sustain drives, keep your defense off the field, let them get fresh, let them recoup, and go ahead and sustain some long drives on offense. Take that time off the clock and have a well-balanced game between rushing attack and passing attack, and you're going to be fine. I mean, if you play a similar game that you played against Carolina during the second half of last game, you will come out and you will prevail. The one thing about LA is, as great as they are on defense, they're still beatable. They're still beatable, and they're still beatable. And a guy like Jared Goff should not be able to tear up the defense of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we need to come to play, and we need to show him early that he's not going to go ahead and beat us. Number two, we got to score first in one of these games. How often this year are we going down 7-0 and 10-0? We may be coming back and we may be winning those games, but in the long run, that's not a formula for success either. We got to come out, maybe defer the coin toss, get the ball back and score and shut these teams down. Too often we're going down 3-0, 7-0, 10-0, 14-0, and we're playing catch-up football. Let's start the game out fresh where we can start that running attack, pound that rock, and consistently go ahead and switch from passing to running. Let's not on every play run on first down. Maybe start the game off with a deep ball to either Godwin or Brown or Evans, one of our big guys. Go ahead. What the heck? First down, first play of the game. Touchdown. It sounds good. Let's do it. What are you waiting for? Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to thank both our guests very, very much for being on Frankly Speaking Sports this evening. First, Ren Daxt, from Pewtercast, the co-host of Pewtercast, and then, of course, my good buddy Shane Matthews, former Gator quarterback and NFL quarterback, for joining us on the show tonight. What a great, great show. What a great recap of what's going to happen Monday night. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the show very much, and we're glad to have you here on Pigskin Thursday. We'll see you on Monday night, 7 p.m. special time on Frankly